Ayo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr.Clintastik back with my Murders at Karlov Manor set review for Magic the Gathering. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Helps the channel to grow in the future. Alright, we've already gone over all 5 monocolors. White, blue, black, red, and green. Personally, I've decided that white is my favorite, followed by red. Then green, I won't say is my favorite, but I think it's power-wise right after red. Then blue, then black. But honorary mention, I think blue might have those tools to really stand out if it happens to come together. So that's where I stand on that. If you missed out on the review, I'm going to be chopping that up, piecing that up, and putting it on the YouTube channel with the proper titles and whatnot. So now we're here with the multicolored spells, and these are the spells that are going to kind of help you determine what 2-color, or I guess 3 colors, you're going to be in. Let's begin. Oh, and as a reminder, this review is for limited, which is draft and sealed events. They're not necessarily for constructed, including like historic or standard or modern or commander or anything like that. This is for draft and seal only, and whatnot, and it's based on a 0 to 5 point rating scale. 0 being totally unplayable, just don't even bother to run it. 5 being just pretty much an every deck slam dunk, just grab it, run with it, it's gonna do you right. So yeah, let's begin. First we have Kaya's Spirit's Justice, 4 mana, 2 generic, white, black, planeswalker, which is always a slam dunk and limited in most situations. Whenever one or more creatures you control and or creatures in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them. Until the end of your turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. You can pay 2, surveil 2. No, not pay 2. You can up it for 2, surveil 2, then then exile a card from a graveyard. You can pay 1. You can plus 1, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. You can -2, exile target creature you control. For each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. And it starts with 3 loyalty. So for 4 mana, 3 loyalty, I get to surveil 2, exile a card from a graveyard. Meh. Or I get to create a 1/1 black spirit creature token with flying. Meh. And then I can neg to exile creature I control, and for each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player control. So the big thing on here is the 4 mana neg 2. And I can recur that, because I can plus make a creature neg 2 again. That's a lot of value. That's a lot of value. And I can turn my tokens into other creatures with flying. I think Kaya is one of those 5.0 cards. It has removal, creature generation, and creature manipulation. And graveyard interaction. Like, these are all things that I want. These are all things that I need. So yeah, Kaya Spirit Justice gets a strong 5.0 from Clinton. I think I'm going to be very afraid every time Kaya comes out. You're going to have to figure out how to... First off, they're going to already have a plan to deal with your creature when it comes out. You're going to have to figure out how to deal the damage to it or kill it, and there's not many things that's ready to do that. So, yeah. If you see Kaya Spirit Justice, pick it. Figure it out. Run it. Recursive removal, yeah. Recursive creature generation, yeah. Next we have Volja, Jaws of the Conclave. It is a 5 mana, 2 generic, a red, a green, a white, legendary creature wolf. Mythic, Vigilance, Trample, Ward 3. Whenever it attacks, put X 1/1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control. Draw a card for each wolf you control. So this could have been like, this could have been just so awesome, right? Like, why do I need to have elves? Tell me. Why do I need to have elves? So this is a 5 mana 5/5 with vigilance and trample. But the colors make, like, I would normally just say a 2 for a 5 mana 5/5. Vigilance, trample, ward 3 is very powerful abilities that would instantly make me want to be like, oh, this is a 3 at least. But the 3 colors, it makes it difficult to play. But once you get on the board, it's there, and every time it attacks, you draw a card. I'm gonna give it a 3.25. The color scheme is what's messing me up. It forces you into white, green, red. It does. And that's not always easy to play. That's almost like saying, oh, this is 6, 7 mana. Because you really got to line it up. But all of the upside can definitely scale up to 3.5 4 status easy. Even higher by drawing you cards. But you have to make it happen. Oh, am I not going the right direction? I'm going across when I might need to be going down. I don't think it matters so much with the multicolor spells. I can just go across. They're multicolored. Alright, next we have Ansrog the Quake Mole. 4 mana, 2 generic, red, green, legendary creature, mole god. When Ansrog the Quake Mole becomes blocked, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. You can pay 7 mana, 3 generic, 2 red, 2 green. Ansrog must be blocked each combat this turn if able. 8/4. So it's a 4 mana, 8/4. Those are some stats, and it's only in 2 colors. Like if this was it, like say this was only red or only green. First off, what, an 8/4 for that cheap a price for 4? Give me that, because in what, 3 turns unblocked with this, I'm winning. This is instant 3.5 for me. And if they block it, I get another combat phase, and I know there's enough combat tricks in this set to make this dangerous. Like the actual artwork reflects how dangerous this card is. Like, what? I'm gonna give this a 3.5. This might even be straight up a 4. Like, it needs a little bit of help. You know, they can probably take 2. You know, we talked about that 4 mana 2/2 that makes the other 2/2. I mean, that's enough to double block it off of 1 card. So it's like, is that card equal to this? No. This needs a little bit of support to get through. So that's why I'm not putting it immediately at a 4. But my geez, in the right deck, this is gonna be, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt because you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta block it. First strike. What? Huh? Yeah. Trample. What? Oh man, this trampling over. Even with 1+1 and trample, they block with a 1/1 thinking, oh man, that ain't nothing. 8 points of damage. Almost half their life. Ansrog, man, that's hype. That's a very hype card for me. I'd want to run red-green with it. It's too exciting. I'd love to see how that plays out. Next we have Vannifar, Evolved Enigma. 4 mana, 2 generic, a green and a blue. Legendary creature, Elf Ooze Wizard. Relevant creature type. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose 1, cloak a card from your hand, or put a 1/1 counter on each colorless creature you control. It's a 3/4. Four mana 3/4 is not that great. 4 mana 3/4 that generates a 2/2. Potentially, you gotta have a card in your hand. and you can cloak it for free. So if you happen to build into the disguise deck with a good card that you want to cloak, that's great. Or you can choose lands and cloak them. I like all of these things, but if they're all ifs and maybes. Like even the second ability, put a 1/1 counter on each colorless. You gotta have them out there to do so. Which I think you will. I think it's almost like a self-generator, but it runs out. Because if you don't have cards in hand, you're not generating nothing. I'm gonna leave this at a 3. Maybe I'm gonna put it at 3.25 actually, because it just needs a little bit of help. A little bit of help. The mana cost is holding it back a bit too. I don't feel like this is absolute blowout card. I feel like this is something like, if you're able to build with it, you're gonna do well. But say this is your top deck. There's nothing on the board. You cloak a card from your hand, doesn't do anything. Put a 1/1 counter on each colorless creature, doesn't do anything. Just a 4 mana 3/4. Whereas the Quake mode, you play it for 4. At the end of the day, if nothing else goes your way, if nothing else happens, it's a blank board. You're swinging in for freaking 8 for a 4 mana. Yes, give it to me. I'll leave Vanifar at a 3.25. I think it's slightly behind the mole. Honestly, I think the mole scale's higher than it. I think the mole is probably a 3.75, and this is probably a 3.25. Next, we have Alkis Prof Master Sleuth. 3 mana, 1 generic, a white and a blue. Legendary creature, human detective with vigilance. When it ETBs, investigate. You can pay X, a white, 2 blue. Tap, sacrifice a clue. You draw X cards and gain X life. Oh, okay. It's a 3/3. So a 3/3 for 3 is solid. It's only 2 different colors, so that's not too bad. I'll put it instantly at a 3. It has vigilance. I'll move it up to a 3.25. It investigates. I'll leave it at 3.25 just because, But then the added ability, X white and blue, sacrifice a clue, draw X cards, gain X life. That's really strong. I'm gonna put this at a 3.5 for me, because this isn't like dealing additional damage. This isn't driving the ball across the line of scrimmage. This is simply supporting you. Now it does have vigilance, and if you can support its vigilance, you could probably get off some attacks and leave yourself up for some pretty good blocks. But other than that, I feel like you're gonna want this for more support and utility. So I'm gonna leave it at 3.5. And the cost, I think, makes it a little bit better than Vanifar. Next we have Etrata, Deadly Fugitive. 3 mana, 1 generic, a blue and a black with Death Touch, Vampire Assassin. Face down creatures you control have pay 2 generic, a blue and a black. Turn this creature face up. If you can't exile it, then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. This is a 1/4. There's kind of a lot to unpack here. So you got your 3 mana 1/4 in blue black. That's not great. Boom, not great. But it has Death Touch. So it's okay, well, this is decent. Any creature that doesn't have more than 4 power can't even trade with this. They can't even attack into it. So that's solid. I'll put it at 3. Then it has the ability, I'm going to start with this one first because I think this is really important. Whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to a player, an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. You start stealing their things. They're not milling. You're stealing their things away. What? Yes. Even lands become creatures. You're stealing their things away and generating creatures, and then you can cast the creature if it has disguise, or you tap into this ability. Face down creatures you control have pay 4. turn this creature face up. So even if it's not a disguised creature, you can still flip it for 4. That's not a bad cost. If you can't flip, if you can't turn it into a creature, you exile it. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. What? That could be game breaking. That could turn some of these really high cost spells from even your opponent into game breakers. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I love this card. It might not be the best for limited. It might not be. But in my mind, I'm like, what? Now, I would have to go through, see how many assassins we got. I would really want to be in a disguise build. There's some things, there's caveats to this. You know, I want to be in disguise build. I want to have some additional assassins and whatnot. Maybe even some counter spells. But this is a real, like, if I can get this and control what's going on in the game, my opponents are they're gonna hate me. I'm gonna have the time of my life. I am gonna have the absolute time of my life. Base stats, this is at least a 3. I'm giving it a 3.5, and I think if you build around it, it could jump all the way up to something even like a 4.5. I think this is crazy strong. Just from manipulating their build, you get to take their good things. Like, you already have your good thing here, and it's like, oh, I get to take your good things and play them. I'm giving it a 3.5. Hold on, did I give something else a 3.75? I think it was Ansrog I gave the 3.75 to, and I think that's still right, because by itself it's dealing 8 damage. This is more of a build around, but at the same time it's not. By itself, you deal damage with it, you instantly start generating. It's there for me. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Errata Deadly Fugitive. Next we have Tristani 3 Whispers. It is 3 mana, a green, a hybrid green-white, and a white. Legendary Dryad. You can pay 2, a 1 generic and a green. Target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. You can pay a hybrid green-white. Target creature gains Vigilant until end of turn. Or you can pay 3, 2 generic and a white. Target creature gains Double Strike until end of turn. And it's a 4/4. A 3 mana 4/4 is great. Instantly I put that at a 3. That's solid. That it's not too hard to play. You can play it for 2 white and a green, or 2 green and a white, however you want to do it. Then all those manipulating abilities, you can give something Death Touch. You can give something Vigilance. You can give something Double Strike itself for 3. You play this on turn 3. Say they have nothing on board. Perfect world. On turn 4, you're swinging in for 8 damage. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I'm gonna put this at a 3.5. And I think this scales up as well. This might even be a 4. To a degree, it depends on how good the white-green shell is, because yeah, this might even be a 4. This has Death Touch, Vigilance, and Double Strike at 3 mana. I know you got to sink more mana into it, but it's all the things. The only thing it's missing is lifelink. You give this pump spells or any kind of assistance, is backbreaking. It's backbreaking. You pump this up by 3, give it Double Strike. I mean, it's 14. Like, that's crippling. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5, and I think it totally scales up. I honestly think it might be. I'm gonna give it a 3.75. This card's really, really good. Tristani 3 Whispers. Let's see. Alright, next we have Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. It is a 6 mana, 4 generic, black, and a red demon, flying trample. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. It's a 6/6. Ooh, the multicolor is going insane now. I kind of mentioned with the 6 mana, 6/6 in red that I'm like, I'm glad it has flying and trample. It's the same deal with this. I'm happy it has flying and trample. 6 mana is still really expensive, you know. But At the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. That's solid too. I can't put this at 3. And the reason why is the mana cost. Now a 6 mana 6/6 flying trampoline boy, it could win you games. But at the same time, the difficulty of getting there is so. I play a lot of draft. I play a lot of limited. It's so for me that I can't say that it's just the average easy going card. I gotta put this at 2.75. I think this is powerful, and I think this is definitely a game-winning card. But you gotta get it to the board, and if you can't get it to the board, how are you gonna win the game? Rakdos Patron of Chaos is really exciting though. Next we have Tomic Wielder of Law. 3 mana, 1 generic, a white and a black, legendary creature, human advisor. Has an affinity for planeswalkers. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each walker you control. Innocent white black, and as we saw, we have the Kaya planeswalker. So if you happen to get Kaya and Tomic, hey, I mean, there's a little synergy there. Come on now. It's a flying vigilant card. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or a planeswalker you control, that opponent loses 3 life. You draw a card. So it kind of restricts your opponent. It restricts your opponent from swinging in with more than 1 creature, essentially, because it's like, oh, well, if you swing in with 2 or more creatures, hopefully you're swinging in with more power than 3, because you're losing 3 life, and you're giving me a card. That's really exciting. Hey Sims, how are you? Thank you for pulling up. I was actually going to reach out to you, see if you want to do a co-review at some point, but I wanted to go on and review the cards solo first and kind of get an understanding. But yeah, Tomic is looking really, really nice here. Flying 2/4, opponent attacks with 2 or more creatures, they lose 3 life, you draw a card. So you've never done a set review? I'm shocked. I'm shocked, Sim. You're really knowledgeable, and I think, for me, it helps me reflect when I'm actually picking the cards, like what I already previously thought on them. But there's certain strategies that I'm still trying to learn and practice, even after all these years of playing. You like not knowing until it releases? Oh man, you're something serious. But yeah, I'm doing a 0 to 5 scale based off of how powerful I think the card is, how good I think it is at winning games. Now, a 3 mana 2/4 flying and vigilant is good stats. I'd put this at a 3 immediately, because it's something that's like, okay, cool, I'm swinging in for 2, and they can't really swing back because it's got the nice butt on it. The extra ability is nice. I would put this at 3.25 to a 3.5. I think it could scale up, but it depends on the opponent really being like, okay, cool, in most cases, if they're gonna swing at you knowing what you got going on, it's gonna be worth it for them, to me. You said it's all the same to you. Man, it has not run together for me yet. There's still nuances that I'm still trying to grasp, as far as like overall curve of the deck. I'm still working on multi-modal cards, like those advantages, fight spells. Like, I could go on. I'm a nerd though. Everything's so minute for me, and I probably overthink everything. But I'll get there. Next we have Melek, Reforged Researcher. It's a 5 mana 3 generic, a blue and a red legendary creature, weird detective. I just like that, weird detective. Anyways, its power and toughness are equal to twice the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard, and the first instant and sorcery you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast. I don't like this. I don't like this. So this, for 5 mana, if you have no instants and sorceries in your graveyard, this is a 0/0. Hey, okay, if you're consistently hitting Mythic, I mean, I don't know how often you actually do like big events like on MTGO or whatnot. I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't. And to be real, I think if you put out more like directed content, you'd get so many more viewers, bro. Like, you're really freaking good. Hell yeah. I think you just need to kind of repurpose your content and have some branding going on. That's all you need. Because you got the skills down pat. And something like a set review, people want to understand. Like, when I tune in to watch you, I'm like, man, how am I going to get better? It's not just for entertainment. It's like, you know, you're one of the players I watch. I want to learn how to improve. And even at my skill level, I'm doing these set reviews so people that aren't as good as me, you know, they can gain an understanding, so they can come into the conversation and be like, okay, I tried what you tried and it worked like this for me. I like those conversations, especially in Magic. Anyways, I don't like Malek refers researcher 5 mana 0/0. It reduces the cost of your instants and sorceries, but there's so much build around with this that I don't like it at all. And if it's ever a 5 mana 0/0, it's 0 for me in playability. I'm gonna call it a 0 for now, and it can go up to a 1 if you're able to play it right. And if you build around it, maybe a 2. But off of first glance for limited, it is not looking exciting at all. Man, I'm telling you, Sims, there's a lot of potential with the work you do. I know you've been, you know, you got your personal life going on, work going on. Same with me. I'm just now getting back to a point where I can even think on trying to do a set review. I haven't done one in a couple of years. I've just been on my grind. So to find the time to kick back and it be a relaxing session instead of it being a stress, like, oh, I gotta jam this in now because I ain't got time for that and I gotta sacrifice my sleep. I'm gonna kick back, I'm gonna breathe, I'm gonna read the cards and really reflect on what I think of them. So yeah, next we have Agras Kos, Spirit of Justice, 4 mana, 2 generic, a red and a white legendary creature, Spirit Detective, double strike, vigilance. I'm liking that. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose up to 1 target creature. If it's suspected, exile it, otherwise suspected. Huh? What? It's a 2/4? What? Okay, suspect was another mechanic I forgot all about. I like suspect as well. Just giving one of my creatures, it's twofold. You can give a creature menace, essentially, and make it not able to block, or you can give your opponent creature menace, but they are not able to block with that creature now. You get to kind of control the tides of combat. For sure, for sure. But you get to kind of like control the terms and conditions of combat. I like suspect a lot. And with this, when it ETBs, if they have a suspected creature, you just get to exile it. You just get to exile it. This is a 4 mana, and it's a condition to it. They have to have a suspected creature. I feel like in most cases, they're going to have a suspected creature on the board for you to exile with this card. And if they don't, you can make this a suspect. It ETBs, choose up to 1 target creature. You're going to make your 2/4 double strike vigilant have menace? What? Or you give their creature suspect, and then when you attack, you exile it. This is... See, this is crazy. What? Oh my... Like, I've given like 1 card a 5. I forgot what it was. What card was a 5 for me? I think it was Kaya. Kaya was a 5. That was a really good Planeswalker. Recursive removal. This is right there with it. This is a game. This is a back-breaking card. All by itself, and it has a lot of value. I love this. I want to say 4.75, but it's probably just a 5. If I give it 4.75, I think I would have to give Kaya 4.75. And that's just me saying there's no perfect card, but this card is absolutely broken. Yeah, it's a 5 in relation to the set. All of these ratings are in relation to the cards in the set. You said Jit in opposition is better? Yeah. Yeah, this is only in relation to the set. So for now, I'm gonna give it a 5. I don't think there's a time where you're just gonna be upset to ever play this card. Ever. Like, once again, you can make it a suspect and you all of a sudden have a menace vigilant double striker, or you can make their creature a suspect and then exile it when you attack, or there's just so much maneuverability with this card. I'm gonna leave it at a 5 and just see how it goes. Next, we have Urgent Necropsy. Can't even talk. Urgent Necropsy. 4 mana, 2 generic, a black and a green instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, collect evidence X, where X is the total mana value of the permanent this spell targets. Destroy up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target enchantment, and up to 1 target planeswalker. I think collect evidence is boo boo. I do not like collect evidence. 4 mana, I could collect evidence X. Total mana value of the permanents this spell total mana value of the permanents. So if I want to target a 6 mana permanent, 6 mana creature, I gotta collect evidence 6, and if I want to choose other targets, I have to add to that. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like Urgent Necropsy. I think it's a little overcosted. I'm not a big fan of collect evidence already. I think it's playable, and I think somebody can do something with it. One of those big brain green Golgari players. I'm gonna leave this at like kind of like a 1 for me, because it doesn't even straight up blow up. You have to collect the right amount of evidence. I'm gonna leave it at a 1. Next, we have Kylox Volstrider. 3 mana, 1 generic, a blue and a red vehicle. Collect evidence 6. Becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Collect evidence looks like trash. Anyway, when it attacks, you may cast an instant or sorcery from among cards exiled with it. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, put it on the bottom of its owner's library instead. And Crew 2. It's a 4/4. Okay. This is one of the first collect evidence spells that I'm rocking with. So you can crew it for 2. It's 3 mana, 4/4 Crew 2. It avoids a lot of evasion. There's 2 board wipes at least in the set, so it's gonna avoid those. And you can choose to collect the use your instants and sorceries as the collect evidence resources to crew your vehicle. Then when you attack with the vehicle, you can cast those spells and basically put them back into your library. So you're not totally removing those cards from the game. You're recycling. I like this. I think this is solid, and I think big brain Izzet players are going to make the most use out of this card. It's mythic, so you're not going to see it too often. But yeah, I think built around and done right, this could be a really good card. I'm gonna give it a 3.25, and I think it's really like a 3.5. But it's not gonna win games on its own. You really gotta kind of set it up to a degree. So I'm gonna leave it at a 3.25 and see if it gets any value. And if it turns out this doesn't do anything, it could easily fall to like a 2.5 or a 2. I just would want to see if this works out. Next, we have Niv Mizzet Guild Pack. 5 mana, white, blue, black, red, green, legendary creature, dragon avatar. It's rare, flying, hexproof from MultiColored. Have we seen a lot of MultiColored removal? Not so much. Whenever Niv Mizzet Guild Pack deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards, and you gain X life, where X is the number of different colored pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. And it's a 6/6. Okay, now. A 5 mana 6/6 is great. The fact that it has to be all 5 colors is tough. It's going to be hard to do that in limited. Like, to have every color you need, unless there's a way to make all colors, make all lands all colors. If that's in the set, great. On paper, this is probably going to be just about unplayable and limited. All the abilities are superb. Flying, hexproof from multicolor is semi-weak, especially when we have straight up multicolored cards. No, straight up hexproof cards in the set. We also have disguise cards in the set. This would have been a great card to have disguise attached to get it out a little sooner. And then have the cost to flip it be the 5 colors. So there was ways to make this card way better. The abilities are broken. You get it out, you're winning the game. So this card has like 2 ratings. If you can't play this card because who's running 5 colors, it's a 0. It's a dud, and you're not going to be happy to have it at all. But if you're that Chad, if you're that guy, and you're able to jab Niv Mizzet Guild Pack to the board, a 5 mana 6/6 that deals X damage to target player, and target player draws X cards, and you gain X life, where X is the number of different colored pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. I think you're going to be happy. It needs a lot of support though, so it drifts it away from a 5, but still a 5 mana 6/6 with flying is really nice. That being said, I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm actually gonna give it a 0 to a 3.5. It's either a 0 or a 3.5. If you build around it and it's done right, this card is a blowout. If you don't, it does nothing for you. You're unhappy. You're sad. So it's either one or the other. Next we have World Soul's Rage. It is an X generic, a red and a green sorcery. World Soul's Rage deal X damage to any target. Put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So for 3 mana this is deal 1 damage. For 4 mana this is deal 2 damage to any target. To any target is great. This scales up, so to deal 4 damage you gotta deal 6. And you can get cards back from the graveyard. This is not that great of a removal spell. I love that it does damage to a target though. To any target. That can include the planeswalkers like Kaya we saw, and the opponent. I just think it's pseudo weak, and it's specifically in 2 colors. I'm gonna give it like a 2.5. I'm gonna give it a 2.25. Honestly, and it can win games, so it can scale up, but initially it's not doing exactly enough for me. See, I gotta. Alright. Next we have Ill-Timed Explosion. 4 mana, 2 generic, a blue and a red sorcery. Draw 2 cards. Then you may discard 2 cards. When you do, Ill-Timed Explosion deals X damage to each creature, where X is the greatest mana value among cards discarded this way. So, we have a board wipe in white. We have a board wipe in black. We have a tap down tap down control card in blue. But now in blue-red, we have a pseudo board wipe. This deals X damage, so you can kind of control the amount of damage you deal to the board. It's a pseudo controlled board wipe that draws you cards. This is pretty silly, right? For 4 mana, I draw 2 cards. Cool. I may discard 2 cards. I don't have to. And if I have, if I want to deal 5 damage, discard a 5 mana card. We want to deal 3 damage, discard a 3 mana card. It really depends on what's in my hand, but there's a lot of control associated with this card. I like it a lot. And even if you don't want a board wipe, you're still drawing the 2 cards. I'm going to put this at a 3.25. It might even be a 3.5. This card does a lot on its own. It doesn't win the game by itself, but it does a lot. Actually, and that's the thing, maybe I'm overrating it, because it's not going to win you the game by itself. And it's not always going to be the appropriate board wipe. 4 mana, draw 2 cards is overcosted. I'm going to have to put this at a 2.5. It's something I'll definitely play. I have fun playing it. But it's not necessarily like what's necessary to take over the game. Next we have Officious Interrogation, a white and a blue instant. It costs a white and a blue more to cast for each target beyond the first. Choose any number of target players. Investigate X times where X is the total number of creatures that player controls. Ooh. Oh, this is a way to get a lot of artifacts to the board really, really fast, right? Or am I tripping? I'm, once again, not something that's going to just win you the game, but it's a really good support spell or utility card because it gets you artifacts to sack, artifacts to draw cards with. All that's missing is gaining life. So for 2 mana, if they have 3 creatures on the board, you get 3 clues. 1 creature on the board, you get 1, but it scales up. I'm going to give it a 2.5. I think a lot of people are going to try it. And if it doesn't do enough work, I think it could fall down to a 2. It might be a 2 off rip, but I think it's just easy to play. 2 mana, get the 3 clues. I'm going to actually leave this at 2, because my thing is, do you want the opponent to have a lot of creatures? I don't like the opponent even having a lot of creatures. At all. So in my ideal world, they have 0 creatures, and they have 0 creatures, this does nothing. And I think in a case where something potentially does nothing, I gotta lean on that. Like, there's a high chance this does nothing for you. I'm gonna drop it down to a 1. Next we have Yaris, Roar of the Old Gods, 4 mana, 2 generic, a red and a green, Centaur Druid. Other creatures you control have haste. Whenever 1 or more face down creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Icy. Whenever a face down creature you control dies, return to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. If it's a permanent card, then turn it face up. And it's a 4/4. This is delicious. What? What? Four mana 4/4 is solid. I'm gonna put it at a 3. 4 mana 4/4 that gives my other creatures haste. I'm gonna put it at 3.25. A 4 mana 4/4 that gives other creatures haste and gives me the potential to draw cards. That's a potential. I'm gonna leave it at 3.25. But the additional ability of whenever a face down creature you control dies, returns to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. If it's a permanent, flip it up. Gotta put it at least a 3.5. In the right disguised deck, this is gonna be absolutely busted and scale up from that. That's gonna scale up from that. Now, say you don't have any face down creatures. This is just a 4 mana 4/4/4, but it still gives things haste. It's between a 3.25 to 3.5 for me. I don't think it's the hardest to play. I think it has solid stats. It gives other things haste, which is going to be broken. I'm going to give it a 3.5 and move on from there. I think the slight overrating because you need the morph creatures, but I think we're going to have enough disguise creatures to make that shake. Alright, next we have Leyline of the Guild Pack. It is a 4 mana, a white-green hybrid, a blue-green hybrid, a black-green hybrid, and a red-green hybrid. So you can play this for 4 green, because it's all green pips. Or you can include the colors as needed. If Leyline of the Guild Pack is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Each non-land permanent you control is all colors. Lands you control are basic land. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So this is something that would work with your guild pack. Like if you get Niv Mizzet of the guild pack, you want something like this. And this helps really fix. It's not so hard to play. You lean green. It'll want you to lean green for your fixing. I'm gonna give this a. I gotta give it a 1 as well. It's hard to play. And it's not doing anything to your opponent. It's doing nothing to them. So they're just like, okay, cool, I guess, you know. If you open up with it at the beginning of the game, cool. But even then, it's not doing nothing for you until you need it to. Gotta leave it at a 1. Next, we have Ezrim Agency Chief. It is a 5 mana, 1 generic, 1 generic, 2 white, 2 blue, legendary creature, Archon Detective with flying. When it ETBs, investigate twice. Okay. You can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact. It gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Hexproof until end of turn. So you play this. It's a 5 mana, 5/5 flyer. Solid. Investigate twice so it can draw you 2 cards. You can sacrifice those 2 in specific or any other artifact. Give it Vigilant, Lifelink, or Hexproof. Broken. The color requirements make it a little more difficult to play. It is 5 mana, but the fact that it has lifelink, which can bring you back into a game, potential vigilance or hexproof, those are all the things you need. I'm gonna put this at a 4. We're gonna be seeing people are gonna play Archon Detective. Don't think they're not. And if you think I'm in a position to win the game with my mono red deck or something like this, they jam this and you don't have a way to remove it off the board, they're gonna sacrifice, gain 5 life, and then you gotta be at risk of them getting hexproof at any time. That's a hurt state. I'm gonna put that at 4, and I think that easily scales up to like a 4.5 or greater. Next, we have Treacherous Greed, 3 mana, 1 generic, a white, and a black instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature that dealt damage this turn. Draw 3 cards. Each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. I don't like this. So I gotta sacrifice my creature. I pay 3, sacrifice the creature, draw 3 cards. I gain 3 life, the opponent loses 3 life. I think this needs too much support. But I know people are gonna play it. Instant speed. They're gonna swing their little 1/1 token or whatnot at me. Next thing you know, they're gonna. Wait, no. So, they gotta have a creature that's strong enough to deal damage and survive. Creature gotta deal damage and survive to be able to sacrifice it. I think this is a 1. I think this is almost unplayable, but I think people are gonna play it. And I think there's gonna be times, certain situations where they're like, oh, great. Not only am I beating your face in with my creature, I get to draw 3 cards off of it. But my thing is, if I have a creature that's strong enough to deal combat damage, maybe it's for the unblockable creatures. I'm thinking too much. This is a 3 mana, potentially draw 3 cards in white black. People are gonna play it. I'm gonna rate it a 1 that scales to a 2, and I just know in most situations it's not gonna be the game-winning card, but there's gonna be certain situations where I'm like, God dang it, why they get a chance to draw 3 cards off of 1 spell? That's insane. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1 that scales to a 2. It's probably a 2. Lazav, Wearer of Faces, a blue and a black legendary creature, shapeshifter detective. Whenever Lazav, Wearer of Faces attacks, exile target card from a graveyard, then investigate. Nice. Recurable investigation is really good. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, you may have Lazav become a copy of a creature card exiled with it until end of turn. Okay, it's a 2/3. I like this. 2 mana, 2/3. In blue black, solid stats. Whenever you attack, exile a card from the graveyard, so it has graveyard interaction. It also generates clues, so it can potentially draw you a card, and it can turn into other creatures. This has a lot of manipulation to it. I think it's a build around to a degree. Certain conditions have to be met, but I think it's immediately a 3. 2 mana, 2/3 solid. The graveyard manipulation is great. The investigate's great. I'm gonna put this at 3.25. Next we have Teysa, Opulent Oligarch. That's a 3 mana, 1 generic, white, black, human advisor, legendary creature with Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. Whenever a clue you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white and black creature token with flying. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's a 2/3. White black looks to be really good. Like white black, red green looks to be the best in my opinion. Like if you're gonna be basing it off of white blue as well. White blue looks really strong. This is the only thing. Tristani looks good in white green. But yeah, white black by itself has some solid pieces. So let me finish. It has Death Touch. Whenever at the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. And whenever a clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. This triggers once a turn. It can trigger on your opponent's turn. And you can sack a clue at instant speed. Now, you're going to need a way to deal the damage to the opponent or get them to lose life. So there's some build up around this, but simply being a 3 mana 2/3 with Death Touch is really good. They're going to have disguised creatures can't swing through this. And, you might be able to block or swing into really good valuable creatures with that Death Touch ability. So I like the card. I think it's like a 3.25 that can scale up based off of how you build around it. Next we have Azoni, Center of the Web, a 6 mana, 4 generic, a black and a green, legendary creature elf detective with menace. Whenever it ETBs or attacks, you may collect 4. If you do, create 2 2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach. You can sacrifice 4 tokens, any tokens I guess, surveil 2, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life. It's a 5/4, so a 6 mana 5/4 with menace. I don't. There's too much mana. It's overcosted. But it's more than that. If you can pull off the collect evidence ability, and with it being 6 mana, there's a good chance that you can collect evidence for create 2 1/1 black and green spider creature tokens. This is recurable. You can collect evidence when it ETBs. You can collect evidence when it attacks. I'm gonna give this a 2.75 simply off the mana cost. I think this is game winning, game breaking, but I'm not a big fan of collect. The fact that you have to, if you don't collect, it's just a 6 mana 5/4 with menace. That's pretty basic. I'm gonna give it a 2.75 because it's almost that card like, oh, this is great, but it's lacking in some components. Next we have Kylox, Visionary Inventor, 7 frickin' mana, 5 generic, a blue and a red, legendary creature, Vishino, Artificer, menace, ward 2 and haste. Whenever it attacks, sacrifice any number of other creatures, then exile the top X card of your library, where X is their total power. You may cast any number of instant and or sorcery spells from among the exile cards without paying their mana cost. It's a 4/4. I applaud the person that made the card. It's cool. Menace, Ward 2, Haste, cool. And I'm guessing whoever the team was like, oh, if it's gonna cast multiple cards for cheap, it has to be expensive. And in limited, that's just not gonna work out well for us. A 7 mana in a set that doesn't have any kind of, I haven't seen any treasures. I haven't made it to the artifact, so I don't know how easy it's gonna be to ramp. This is just gonna be a. You're gonna get it out, and they're gonna have two blockers, and you're gonna be like, Now, and you have to sacrifice creatures with. I'm putting it at 0. This is bad in limited. I can't pay any respect to Kylox. Blue red isn't looking that great right now. Alright, next we have Tolsimir, Midnight's Light. It is a 5 mana, 2 generic, a green and 2 white. Legendary creature, Elf Scout, rare. Lifelink. When it ETBs, create Volja Finstalker, a legendary 5/5 green and white wolf creature token with trample. And whenever a wolf you control attacks, if Tolsimir attack this combat, target creature and opponent control blocks that wolf this combat if able. It's a 3/2. A 5 mana 3/2 is not that great. A 5 mana 3/2 that generates a 5/5 regardless is really nice. There's 8 power on the board. 2 targets. It also has lifelink. I'm gonna put this at a 3. 5 mana, it's tough. But a 5 mana 3/2 that generates a 5 mana creature, that's a lot of value. And this has lifelink, and this can make creatures block. I'm put this at 3.25. That can scale up to a 5. I really like Tolsimir. I think green white's looking way better than blue red is. I'm gonna give Tolsimir a 3.25, and I have a feeling that's gonna scale up. I think it's gonna end up being a 3.5, maybe even higher in my scale. Next we have Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, a 4 mana 2 generic green and a blue legendary creature, human, fairy, detective, rare. It has the Adventure of Tail the Suspect, green, blue. You can investigate. You may play an additional land this turn for 2 mana. That's not bad. And for 4 mana, it's a flying, vigilant. Whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. If you control that permanent, draw a card. So say you had a clue that you was going to sack and you don't have the mana to pay. You attack, you can destroy the artifact, draw a card for the free skis. 4 mana, 3/4. Not something to write home about. I'll put it at a 3. It's playable. The sorcery part is kind of cool. For 2 mana, you can potentially ramp in green blue. Cool. But I don't know if this is gonna get to 3.25 for me. It could, but I think the mana cost is holding it back. If this was just 3 mana, I would say this is 3.25 to 3.5. But at the mana cost is at, it's just like meh. I'm okay running it, happy running it, but it's not like overly exciting to Clinton. Next we have Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. It's a 5 mana, 3 generic, 3 generic, a black and a red. Legendary creature shaman, rare. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. That spell gains Death Touch and Lifelink. Ooh. Ooh. So your shocks gain Death Touch and Lifelink. Or create a 2/2 red imp token with, when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. This is a 3/4. So I don't like the 5 mana spells. I keep saying I don't like when a spell gets to 5 mana. But this is nice. I'm putting it at 2.75. It needs help. It needs a little help. But the right player is gonna make someone absolutely just devastated. I'm gonna shock you and I'm gonna gain 2 life. Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna shock you 6/6. I'm gonna gain 2 life and your creature's gonna die. What? Yeah. That's beautiful. I'll at least want to try out Judith, Carnage Connoisseur, but at 5 mana, it's definitely a build around in late game. Next we have Aurelia, the Law Above, 5 mana, 3 generic, a red and a white, legendary creature angel with flying, haste, and vigilance. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. So even your opponent, if they attack with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia, the Law Above, deals 3 damage to each of your opponents and you gain 3 life. It's a 4/4, so a 5 mana 4/4 flying, vigilant, haste. I gotta put this at 2.75. It needs the support. It's just about there. I think there's gonna be other cards that I see that are cheaper, more efficient, that I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna grab this over it because I don't want too many freaking 5 drops. If this was like 1 mana less, I would probably slide it immediately to a 3.25 or higher. But a 5 mana card, and even though it has flying, vigilance, and haste, it can be easily blocked or whatnot. So yeah, I gotta give it a 2.75, but I'm excited to see Aurelia the Law Above at work. Alright, so next is Blood Spatter Analysis, a black and a red enchantment. When Blood Spatter Analysis ETBs, it deals 3 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Whenever 1 or more creatures die, mill a card and put a Bloodstain counter on Blood Spatter Analysis, then sacrifice it if it has 5 or more Bloodstain counters on it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Hmm. 3 damage target creature's not bad, you know, and this has replayability because it's an enchantment. I don't want to mill a card myself, but this, after enough creature dies, this returns a random creature from the yard, well, a creature you want from your graveyard to your hand. No, not to the hand. So 2 mana, deal 3 with some upside. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Next we have Doppelgang. It is a X generic, 3X generic, green and blue sorcery. For each of X target permanent, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So for 5 mana, I can copy your biggest threat. For 8 mana, I can copy. Huh. Is this scaling weirdly? So say you have 2 creatures on board. If I pay 8 mana, I can choose 2 targets. And I make a copy of each of those targets twice? Am I understanding this right? Granted, this is terrible and limited. I'm not shooting for 5 and 8 mana off rip. But this is interesting now. Especially if you have like instant and sorceries cost X less to cast. The Lord, I gotta put this as a 0 for now. It's hard to say it's a 1. It's a 1 based off of 5 mana. You can copy something that's the best. And if you get up there, you can go higher. But by itself, it's doing absolutely nothing. And if it's by itself doing nothing, I can't really respect it. I mean, you can choose lands too, I guess. I'm gonna give it a 1. I won't say it's total 0, but I'll give it a 1. Next we have Drag the Canal, a blue and a black. Create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token. If a creature died this turn, you gain 2 life, surveil 2, then investigate. What? So for instant speed, I can just boom, I'm gonna create a creature. I love that. And then if creature died this turn, I gain 2 life, surveil 2, and investigate. So I have the potential to draw a card. I'm gonna put this gotta be a 2.75. No, I'm gonna put it at 3. Put it at 3. I can play this pretty much anytime. I'll run 3 copies of this, 4 copies, 5, 6. And then I might get to play it again. Who knows? I'm gonna put it at a 3. I think Drag the Canal is really solid. It gives you a lot of abilities for really, really cheap. Next we have something tried and true, Assassin's Trophy. Black and a green instant, destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for basic land, put on the battlefield, and shuffle. This is really like just a slam dunk removal spell. I'm gonna put it at like 4.5. It probably is a 5. It's so cheap, so efficient. Yeah, they get a land, but you get to destroy like the best thing. You're not gonna want to waste this on something cheap and useless. You're gonna want to target their best thing, but it targets any permanent. I'm gonna put this at 4.75. I think it really scales up to a 5. I think you really want that in all of your green black builds, no questions. Next we have War Leader's Call. It is a 3 mana, 1 generic, a red and a white. Creatures you control get 1/1. Whenever a creature ETBs, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. 3 mana, 1/1. 3 mana enchantment that gives all your creatures 1/1, so it gives them an anthem. And whenever you play a creature, you deal a damage to the opponent. I can see this being like a 2. Immediately it pumps your board for the long term. And then whenever you play creatures, you're just pinging them out. I think this is honestly like a 2.5. I really like War Leader's Call. It's looking solid. Next we have Relive the Past. 7 mana, 5 generic, a green and a white. Sorcery, return up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target land, and up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. They are 5/5 elemental creatures in addition to their other types. So for 7 mana, how much you're bringing up? 1, 2, 3, 15 power to the board. Potentially, you gotta have those things in the yard. I'm gonna say this is a 1. It's overcosted. You gotta have all the right conditions to bring it up to a 3. You play this, it's instantly like, okay, cool. You're probably gonna win the game. It's probably like a 3.5, 4. But to get to 7 mana and have all 3 of those types in your yard is a setup. I'm gonna put this at a 2, even though it's at 7 mana. I think that's really cool. If someone plays it against me and get it to go off, I'm gonna be really hype. That's exciting. Alright. Now we have Breakout, a red and a green. Look at the top 6 cards of your look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them. If that card has mana value 2 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. If you didn't put the reveal card onto the battlefield this way, put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a sorcery. With enough good low cost red or green cards, I'll run all of these pretty much. Like, it's not something that just wins the game on its own. I'm gonna put it at 2.5, but I think this card is solid. You go 6 cards deep, find a card you want, and you can put it straight to the battlefield. A lot of times these search up cards want to put it in your hand, but if you really need one of your big butt creatures, you can pull that to your hand too. I like that a lot. I'm gonna give this a 2.5. It's probably just a 2, but when it comes to like just value, I think it's solid. Next we have Coerce to Kill, 5 mana, 3 generic, a blue and a black enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. Ooh, enchanted creature has base power and toughness 1/1, has death touch, and is an assassin in addition to his other types. Blue black, you really want us to do some controlling. We talked about the other card that takes the cards away from him. This is another card that takes them away. 5 mana removal spell. I'm not such a big fan of, but this is really fun. I'm gonna put this at a 2 because of 5 mana. If it was any less, it would be a 2.5 or 3. I don't necessarily like that it turns the creature into a 1/1 for you, but at least it has death touch. Next we have 10 Street Gossip, a 4 mana, 2 generic, a red and a green creature, Viashino Advisor, uncommon, vigilance. You can tap, add a red and green, spend this mana only to cast face down spells or turn creatures face up. It's a 4/4, so a 4 mana 4/4 is solid. 3, I'm gonna put that at a 3. It has vigilance, even better, put that at 3.25. And it ramps, so you play this on turn 4, it helps you flip your disguise creature, so it supports. I'm gonna keep it at 3.25, but this card is really good. I think we're gonna see a lot of 10 Street Gossip. Clearly my voice is getting tired. I done gone through so many cards today. Next we have Insidious Roots, black and a red, enchantment, uncommon. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. This turns your clue tokens into ramp. Whenever one or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, create a 0/1 plant creature and put 1/1 counter on it for each plant you control. This could work for collect evidence. I don't see that being so relevant, but this could turn your clues into ramp. But I think there's a lot of build up around that. I'm not too excited about it in limited. And by itself, it does nothing. I'm gonna have to put this at 0, even though I think some people are gonna play it, and I think some people are gonna do something with it. I don't think I'm ever gonna pick this card for myself to play. It may be a 1 for collect decks. I would have to see this play and win for me to put Insidious Root at a 1 rating, at least, and that's being generous. Next we have Wisp Drinker Vampire, 4 mana, 2 generic, a white and a black. Vampire Rogue with flying. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less ETBs under your control, each opponent loses a life, you gain a life. You can pay 7, 5 generic, a white and a black. Creatures you control with power 2 or less gain Death Touch and lifelink until end of turn. It's a 2/4. So a 4 mana 2/4, not anything to write home about. You have to play 2 creatures with power 2 or less to get the ability for the lifelink or for the drain, and then you have to have 7 mana. I'm gonna rate this a 3. I like flyers. 4 mana 2/4 flyers okay to me. I'll probably play it in most instances, but the rest of the text, I don't know how often that's gonna come into play, and that's why I'm just gonna say this is playable. You can run a few of them, but it might actually be like a 2.75 because it's just not easy to jam to the board. I'm gonna leave it at 2.75. Next we have Rune Brand Juggler. It's a black and a red creature human shaman, uncommon. When an ETB, suspect up to 1 target creature you control, and you can pay 5, 3 generic, a black and a red. Sacrifice the suspected creature. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. This is a 2/2, so 2 mana 2/2 that gives one of your creatures menace that can potentially -5 something for 5 later on. I think this scales up great. This is a 3.25 for me. Nah, maybe it's just a 3, so you gotta have the right condition. So it can sack itself though for 5. 2. Get out, blocks for you or attacks for you, and then for 5 mana. Still, I think it's a little too oomph. I'm gonna give it a 3 simply off of being a 2 mana 2/2 menace, and it can scale up based off of its removal ability. Next we have Detective Satchel, 4 mana 2 generic, a blue and a red. Whenever ETBs, investigate twice. You can tap it, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter. Activate only if you sacrifice an artifact this turn. I'm gonna put that at a 1. It's not too much to explain. You gotta have enough to keep sacking, and all you're getting is 1/1 tokens off of it, which is okay, but not exciting. Next we have Evidence Examiner, a green and a blue creature, Merfolk Detective. Uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may collect evidence 4. Whenever you collect evidence, investigate. It's a 2/2, so it's a bear. I'm gonna put it at 2.5. It's solid. You know, you can swing in with it, but it's not anything to write home about. You can collect evidence with it and investigate, which is cool, but I'm not even a big fan of collect evidence. Next we have Soul Search, a white and a black sorcery, uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. If the card's mana value is 1 or less, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of these. Look into the opponent's hand and make them discard a card or exile a card. That's really strong, especially early game. I'm gonna give this a 2.5. This could be a 2.75, but still, it's not something I have to pick. I have to play. It's something I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll run that. Next, we have Repulsive Mutation. X, green and a blue, instant, put X 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Then counter up to 1 target spell unless its controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. This is solid. I'm gonna put it at 2.5. I think this is really good though. It needs support, but you're running your green blue deck. They try to fight. They try to do anything. You're putting counters on something and countering their spell. I think this could scale up real easy. I'm gonna put it at 2.5. I think it's a really good card. How many we have left? 3, 4. Jesus, there's a lot left. Next we have Private Eye, a 3 mana, 1 generic, a white and a blue. Detective, uncommon. Other detectives get 1/1, and then whenever you draw your second card each turn, target detective can't be blocked. 3 mana, 3/3. I'm gonna put this at 3.25. This is uncommon. Say you get 2 of these, they're pumping each other, so you have 3 mana 4/4s. You get 3 of these. You have 3 mana 5/5s. These scale up so easily. Then if you happen to draw cards, they become unblockable. This is a 3.25 that easily scales up for me based off of how you build with it. By itself, I guess it's just a 3. By itself, it's a 3. As you multiply the copies in your build, I think it goes up. Next, we have Buried in the Garden. 4 mana, 2 generic, a red and a white. I'm definitely tired. 2 mana, a green and a white aura. Uncommon, enchant land. When it ETBs, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until Buried in the Garden leaves the battlefield. When enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of any color. A 4 mana ramp spell? That's kind of boo-boo. But, I mean, it does exile target non-land permanent you don't control for 4. That's really good. I think this is 3.5. In most cases, this is going to take care of any problem you have, and it's going to ramp you a little bit. Yeah, I put it at 3.5. Next, we have No More Lies, a white and a blue, instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. If the spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Okay. I'll give that a 2.5. Counter spells get a lower rating to me because it gotta have the right moment. It's not always going to be there, and it's not going to attack for you. Next we have Crawl Whip Cracker, a black and a green, insect assassin, uncommon, with reach. ETBs, destroy target token an opponent controls. It's a 3/2. Okay, I'll put this at 3.25. In most cases, I'll run as many of these as I can. 2 mana 3/2 is solid. It's going to beat in really nice. Has reach so it can block for them if I need. Then if they have an artifact that I don't like, or a clue token that was going to draw them a card, I can just blow it up. Nice. Next we have Sumala Sentry, a green and a white elf archer with reach, uncommon. Whenever a face down permanent you control is turn face up, put a 1/1 counter on it and a 1/1 counter on the sentry. This is solid. This is going to go in your disguise deck. It needs some support. I'm going to put it at 2.75. It just simply because it needs support, because a 1/3 with reach by itself is nothing to write home about. Next we have Deadly Complication, a 3 mana, 1 generic, black and a red sorcery. Uncommon. Choose one or both. Destroy target creature. Okay. Put a 1/1 counter on target suspect creature you control. You may have it become no longer suspected. I like that a lot. 3 mana, blow up something. That's easily a 4 for me. Easily, just boom. Then put a 1/1 counter on target suspected creature. Just because. Okay. The fact that it's no longer suspected is something I don't necessarily like, because I do like that menace part, but this would be good like trying to defend yourself. If you couldn't block before, now you can. I'm going to put it at 4 simply after that destroy target creature. I hope I said the other green-white card was 4. Buried in the Garden. This is, I think the mana cost is what got it to a 3.5 if I did say that. Next we have Curious Cadaver. 4 mana, 2 generic, a blue and a black. Zombie Detective, uncommon, flyer. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, return it from the graveyard to your hand. It's a 3/1. 2.75. And that's because of the mana cost. The ability is great, but you gotta have that support, and a 4 mana 3/1 is just not exciting. I'll put it at 2.5 actually. Meddling Youths, 5 mana, 3 generic, a red and a white. Creature, human, detective, uncommon. Haste. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, investigate. It's a 4/5. I'll put it at a 2. I'm just not a fan of these 5 mana cards. And you gotta have 3 or more creatures for it to really get that value. It can be wild out easily. Big 2 for Clinton. Next we have Lightning Helix, a red and a white. Instant, deals 3 damage to any target, you gain 3 life. That's a 4 for me. You can target their face, you gain life, they lose life. I'll run. If I get 3, 4 of these, I'm happy. Say I get 4 of these. That is that's 24. No, yeah, because 3 times 4 is 12. They lose 12 life. I gain 12 life. That's 24 life in my favor off of 4 cards. Love it. I'm giving it a 4. I think it actually scales up based off of the player. Next we have Crowd Control Warden. 5 mana, 3 generic, and a green and a white. Centaur Soldier. That's getting into the common cards. Okay, so we finally made it. Oh, well, I guess I could go over the commons as well in the multicolors. Let me finish that out. 5 mana, 3 generic, a green and a white. As the ETBs or its turn face up, put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of other creatures you control. Disguise 5. 5 mana, 4/4. I'll leave it at a 2. It's just not exciting. It can flip and put counters on it where X is the number of creatures you control, but you gotta have something to help support it. Next is Sanguine Savior, a 3 mana, 1 generic, white and a black. Vampire Cleric, common, flyer, lifelink, okay. With Disguise 2, okay. When its turn face up, another target creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. I'll put this at 3. I'll run all these. Flying lifelink 2/1. 2/1's not exciting. It gets blocked out easy, but the fact that it naturally has lifelink is really, really nice. I'm gonna put it at a 3. I'll probably always want to play it. Pump spells or any kind of interaction is gonna take it up even higher. Next we have Rakish Scoundrel or Rakish Scoundrel. 4 mana, 2 generic, a black and a green. Elf Rogue with Death Touch, ETBs, or his turn face up. Target creature gains indestructible. Ooh. Disguise 6 is a 3/3. So a 4 mana, 3/3. Not exciting, but it has Death Touch. I'm gonna put it at a 3, and I think it scales up based off of Disguise, even though that is expensive. It can potentially be a very expensive combat trick. I'm gonna leave it at 3. Next we have Granite Witness, a 4 mana, 2 generic, a white and a blue. Gargoyle Detective with Flying and Vigilance, Disguise 2. When its turn face up, you may tap or untap target creature. 4 mana, 3/2 flyer. Nothing to write home about. I'll put it at 2.5. Uncover Crocdelf, 6 mana, 4 generic, green and blue. Crocodile Detective. When it deals combat damage to a player, investigate. And it can disguise 5 as a 5/5. You know kind of where that leaving it at. Based off of my stats before, I'm leaving it at a 2. Shady Informant, 5 mana, 3 generic, a black and a red. Ogre Rogue. When it dies, deal 2 damage to any target. Disguise 4. That's pretty cheap. You can play it on turn 3 and then flip it over on turn 4. And it's a 4/2, so a 5 mana 4/2. I'm going to have to leave that at a 2 as well. Fairy Snoop, 3 mana, 1 generic, a blue and a black. Flyer with Disguise 3. When its turn face up, look at top 2 cards of your library. Put one in your hand, the other into your graveyard. 3 mana, 1/4 flyer. I'm gonna put this at 2.75. I'm starting to rate, like the common cards, I'm kind of rating a little bit lower based off abilities and whatnot. You can play this for 3 and then flip it up for 3. That's a lot just to draw 1 card. That's 6 mana to draw 1 card. I don't know if I like that. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. 3 mana, 1/4. You know what? There's a possible chance I might run multiple copies of this. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's not that bad. 3 mana, 1/4 flyer. It's gonna block well for you. It's gonna attack when you need it, and it can potentially find you a card. I'm gonna put it at a 3. We have Dog Walker, red and a white. Human Citizen with Vigilance, disguise 2, another cheap disguise. Whenever it's turn face up, create 2/1/1 dogs. I like this. You play this on turn 3. The next turn, you're getting a 3/1 with 2 white dogs. I'm going to put this at 3 as well. And it's Vigilant. This might be a 3.25. This might be a little sleeper for red-white. This is not bad. A lot of mana that goes into it, but you generate a lot of tokens. I'm going to leave it at 3 for now. Next we have Gadget Technician. 4 mana, 2 generic, a blue and a red. When an ETB's Aura's turn face up, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact, creature token with flying, disguise for 2. That's another cheap disguise, and it's a 3/2. 4 mana 3/2 is nothing to write home about. I'm gonna put it at 2. Even though you can play it for 3 and then flip it, it only generates you the 1 token. A 4 mana 3/2 that makes you 1 token is still kind of like meh. Gotta leave it at 2. Ooh. We got a few more here. They're not double face cards, they're split cards. I'm gonna have to read them from the side. So we got Push Pull. Push is a 2 mana, 1 generic, a hybrid white and black. Destroy target tap creature. Sorcery. I don't like that it's sorcery, but I like that. And it also has Pull. Put up to 1. It's a 6 mana card, 4 generic, a black and red hybrid. Put up to 2 target creature cards from a single graveyard onto your battlefield. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. That could be game winning. So this is a blow up card and a bring back card. I love that it has 2 abilities on it. It encourages to play black red. I'm gonna put this at 3.5. This destroys target tap creature, so boom, it's taking out pretty much anything that attacked you. You don't get to stop it instantly. That's what's keeping it from being just a straight up 4. If this was instant speed, boom. But then you also have this other side at 6, which is pretty expensive. You don't know if you're always going to get there. That could be game winning as well. So I'm going to leave Push Pull at a 3.5, and it may scale up. Next we have Hustle Bustle. Hustle is a 1 mana, a blue red hybrid. Target creature attacks or blocks this turn if able. And then we have Bustle, 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 green red hybrids. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. You may turn a creature you control face up. Now one thing I gotta remember with these double-sided cards, I think you can only choose one side to play. You can either do this or that. I don't know now if you can do both, if you can be like, okay, I'm gonna play Push Pull, that's gonna take the card up even higher, but it's gonna be really expensive. So if I said this was a 3.5, if you can play this for 8 mana and get all the ability, it could easily go up to 3.75. This card, I don't like it too much. I think it's like a 2. Target creature attacks or blocks, you gotta have something for that. And even the second part of pumping and flipping the creature is really expensive. I'm gonna leave that at a 2. Next we have Cease Desist. Cease is a 2 mana, 1 generic, a black and green hybrid. You can exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Target player gains 2 life and draws a card. Okay. Or you can, for 6, 4 generic, 2 green white hybrid, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. I'm gonna leave this at a 1. This is very underwhelming. It's not doing much for me in most situations. Next we have Fuss Bother. And with these ratings, I'm rating them as a whole together. I mean, if one side's good, it's just a good card. Even if the other side is bad, it's like, well, this side is good and the other side is bad. If I ever use it in any situation, that's better than nothing. Next we have Fuss Bother. Fuss is a 3 mana, 2 generic, and white red hybrid. It's an instant. You can put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control. It's pretty good. Now on the other side, for 6, 4 generic, a white and blue hybrid pip, 2 white blue hybrid pips. Create 3 1/1 colors artifact tokens, and then you can surveil 2. So for 6, you can make 3 tokens. It's not that great. This takes a lot of support. I'm gonna leave it at a 2, but I think somebody with a good build can scale it up. Next we have Flotsam, and Jetsam. Oh, is this? Yeah, Flotsam and Jetsam. Flotsam is a 2 mana, 1 generic, a green blue hybrid, instant. Mill 3 cards and investigate. Jetsam is a 6 mana, 4 generic, a blue black hybrid, 2 pips. Sorcery. Each opponent mills 3 cards, then you may cast a spell from each opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a spell cast this way would be put in the graveyard, exile it instead. So for 6 mana, you get to play anything you want from the opponent's graveyard. 6 mana is still costly, so I don't know how much I like that. And I don't like milling myself with Maelstrom either. I'm going to have to leave this at a 2. I think some people can play it and be happy. So overall, I think the multicolored cards are really excellent. I think off rip, white, black, white blue, white, black, and white blue is really what stands out to me, because in my mind I'm already like, cool, I can kind of consider Esper builds. I haven't gone over the lands yet, but you know, if the lands are landing for me, I can consider, you know, a white blue deck that has a lot of good creatures. I consider a white black deck that has a lot of good creatures, and potentially Kaya. White green looks solid. I didn't see a lot of things that I would necessarily want to play with. Green has a lot of power, but I think it's probably right after white black. And let's see, white black and white blue. Blue black has a few pieces too. That's why I was saying with blue. Blue has a lot of oomph that I'm just like, I like this. So for me, it's like right now I think it's white black into that's not what I meant to do. White black into white blue into kind of like either blue black or white green. But then you got pieces like a knockout card like Ansrog that's really solid, that can win games on their own, so it's like encouraging red green. But then you also have, what was another card? Here, red white. Red white didn't have a lot of cards. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But this one right here was just like by itself, it encourages red white so strong. Now, one thing I am hearing come out my mouth a lot, I think white's gonna end up being the most played color, regardless of what it's matched with. White has some of the best creatures in my opinion by themselves on the board. White splashes into some of the best colors. I think white black, and like I said, white blue, and even this white red card. So I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of white cards drafted, a lot of color paired with white this season, especially depending on how the artifacts and lands look. So yeah, so I just went over I think we went over what, red today, green today, all of the multicolors. Next time I'm gonna run multicolors by themselves. They took forever. Next time I'm gonna go over the artifacts and potentially the lands. So if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. I hope this has been an educational session for you. Hope it helps you with your limited playing going forward for the season, take you some dubs. And if you do happen to win some games off of this advice, please come back to the video and let me know. As always, you guys are fantastic. My name is Mr. Clintastik. I'll see you guys next time.